let's talk a little bit about Article 18 in your reprimand. As I understand, there was it was based on security. It was paying the security guys, South Africans Hector and Derek. Is that right? So why don't you talk a little bit about it? And
so when we were in Iraq at the time, we really weren't prepared for the aftermath of the war. The war went very quickly, as we knew it would. We were there in Baghdad 10 days after the bombs stopped dropping in Baghdad. They were still dropping up north in Mosul. And there was not a security apparatus for us. And so my boss, who was a 3-star general, picked by
General Garner.
Yeah, General Garner, picked by President Bush at the time to go and rebuild. So our objective was set the environment for democratic processes, take hold, fix the humanitarian crisis there was, and reconstruct the country.
Not a big job.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, you got to do it in 90 days.
Not a big job.
And I remember Rumsfeld saying, "We're not spending a dime in Iraq." I mean, that was the brief.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you were almost like set up to fail. I mean, as hard as it was, and I talk about this in the book, and again, to the point of this issue with Iraq, I've dealt with it for 16 years. It's in the book. I've interviewed on it. I've been CNN. I've talked about it at length, so folks can ask me. So it's not, oh my gosh. So what happened is we didn't have the structure in place in order to pay folks, a lot of folks around the thing. But the most important to us was the people that were keeping us alive every night, because the boss was insistent about going out, because Iraqis lived at night. If you went out in the day, it was hot, and they stayed inside. So he was like a man of the street. So we would go out every night. Well, when you're out at night, you are very vulnerable at night. And we didn't have armored cars. We didn't have Humvees around us. We had soft side, which was basically SUVs is what we traveled in. And because the Army was busy securing, as it should be, it's not their job to do personal protection, they had hired a group to do that. And so
South Africans?
Correct. They brought them up. We didn't have anything to do with that. That was contracted through another system. So they came up and they were our guards. And they were with us, and they traveled around at night. They kept us alive. We got shot at a number of times, got trapped in a kill zone one time. So a lot of things had happened. And matter of fact, you read in the book where we get peppered in the material store, which
is that where you had to grab the M5?
Well, it's where. Seat? Yeah, that's where the. So it wasn't.
So your goal was to basically get them paid, because they weren't being paid for the latter part of that.
Yeah, and so what happened, so anyway, so that just teased up the whole scenario. These people had kept us alive, and so at the end, the boss, we find out through the head guy, they never said anything, is they hadn't been paid at all, and they didn't have insurance, and a lot of other things. So if they got killed, it was just like, too bad for you. I mean, there was nothing for the family, and they all had families. So the care and feeding of the troops. It matters not to me whether you're, my troops, a veteran, or the folks that are keeping us alive, and had saved my life. Yes. And to your point, one of the gentlemen had saved my life. And so, yes, I felt compelled to, number one, uphold what the government had said they would do, and number two is I felt a personal kinship to people that had kept us alive in that really dire time during trying to rebuild Iraq. And so the boss said, came to the boss with the issue, went through all the channels. I said, look, this is...
And he said, why didn't you tell me this?
He
right?
said, he pointed a finger and he goes, get them paid. Right. And that's how generals work. So I said, okay. So I went through this, what I thought was the correct way to do it. Even talked to a couple lawyers about it. I said, this is what we need to do. And the guy just goes, whatever it is, get them paid. And at the end of the day, the military disagreed. They said you shouldn't have done it that way.
Right. Which lawyers did you talk to? Did you talk to military lawyers? Did you talk to?
Yeah, OSD. Yeah, there were OSD lawyers that I went to and talked to, especially around ethics, because it's like, okay, how's this going to look? I mean, I was very aware. I wasn't, I do my homework. Sure. And I just should have gotten things in writing, and but I was just committed to making sure these guys got paid. And at the end of the day, therefore said, no, you did it the wrong way, and so therefore you will be, to your point, you'll be reprimanded. To which I say, and I will say this all the time, I am accountable for my actions. And I have always stood up for what I've done and what I believe. And if people disagree, then they disagree.
Yeah, but the military found there was no wrongdoing in the awarding of the contract, right? There was some usage of a government equipment to send some personal information. Is that correct?
I don't know about that. Yeah.
No. Okay. I must have read it wrong. I guess the issue, as far as the setting up of some type of company. Now, I can understand. Like, say, if my son was, say, "Hey, Dad, I want to start a $1 billion app company. Can you help me send it up?" I said, "Yeah, I can help you do that." So, I have. You don't know how to do. I'll do that. So was that you did set up something and that you were able that, and then there was and they said, oh, you didn't profit from it, but perhaps you shouldn't have set it up. I just wanted to get an understanding of what.
And that's what the lawyer said to do. If you want to get them paid, set up a company, and we'll pay them.
So they instructed you to do that?
Yeah, that's what the guys was saying. So that's the point about getting stuff in writing.
I understand.
So he said that's how you pay them. I mean, how was I going to make the government pay it? You don't. So you set this up. That was the conduit to get them paid, which they did.
Right.
And I didn't profit. There, everybody says, "Oh, you're a war profiteer." It's like, no, I'm not. I was the administrative conduit to getting these guys the money that we said, the United States said we would pay them.
Right.
So, and they did.
So, and to be clear, that as far as the wording of the contract, they
No.
said there was nothing wrong.
No.
And you were sort of instructed or indicated that that's how you should have done it.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened.
How would I have known that? I mean, I'm a
Exactly.
pilot. I'm not a contractor. I have no clue. So someone told me that's how it gets done. So that's what happened.
Yeah.
And again, it's, at the end of the day, you look at the totality of your career, you look at the totality of your life, and you have things you've done that at the moment you say, God, I wish I had more of my information.
Right.
But when you look back at it's all, those folks kept us alive, and they saved my life and mine and my boss's life.
Right.
And my husband doesn't regret my decisions, probably my children don't, and others, it's my granddad. So you have to say to yourself, I am all of my history, my good, all my choices that I've made. And I think it made me, believe it or not, more empathetic to the women who were coming out of Iraq and Afghanistan that I would then later help. Less than 5 years later, I would help women and understand choices they made in the field and able to say to them, oh girl, I've been there and done that.
Right.
The fog and friction of war, and you make these choices, and then in the Monday night quarterback, and you think, oh, I wish I had done it quite like that. But it's all right, because if you take what you've done and then you can leverage it and help others with it, good on you. And so it's funny, there were nights, it was tough. It was a tough year to go through at the end of my career, and not certainly, how I would have liked it to have gone. But at the end, I'm still sitting on the Inspector General's team in the Air Force, and still being able to contribute to my nation and serve it, and I'm still going to do it today.
And you retired as a full colonel.
Oh yeah.
And now I almost hired a veteran, and she, in part of paperwork, was I think a DD-214. Is that so? Is that true? Is that the honorable discharge papers for all branches of service?
Yes.
Or is that only?
Yes.
She was Army.
Yes.
So that's all. So you received honorable discharge, and you're a rank of full colonel. Okay. I have this one quote from George Washington, and I love this, so I'm going to read it, and I apologize if I'm going to read it. I am nevertheless too sensitive of my defects not to think I've committed many errors, and I hope that my country will view them with indulgence. Is there anything that you would like people to view with indulgence of things that you've done?
Well, I think George Washington says it best. Again, you must view the person in their total view, and what they continue to do, and what always their intent is for others, not for self, but for others. And so I live kind of the creed of the Air Force, which is service before self.